Running the Marathon of Language Learning by Joseph Givens.
Ça me permet d'être plus enjoué dans mon travail, ça me permet d'être plus heureux dans ma vie de famille, ça me permet d'avoir l'impression de me réaliser en tant qu'humain.
Some of you may be able to have understood what was said, while many may not. Even those that took French classes may not understand it. This language could be French, Spanish, German, Italian, even Japanese. The outcome would most likely remain the same. Most of you couldn't understand it. And it's not your fault. Even though most Americans have taken 3 or even 4 years of foreign language classes, the vast majority can barely remember how to introduce themselves, let alone have a conversation. So why is it that almost every American high schooler takes language classes, yet remains proficient in only one? Why is America's foreign language curriculum failing its youth and preventing them from living healthier and more fulfilling lives? You see, as Americans, we have been blessed with English being our native language. English, the language of business, of Marvel movies, and of most Netflix shows and Spotify playlists. America has grown complacent in its view of the value of foreign languages. I mean, what's the point of learning a foreign language if everywhere I go, people will be able to speak English to some capacity? What's the point of learning a new language if every show, movie, and podcast has an English counterpart or translation of some sort? And it's this painstakingly oblivious logic that has rendered the foreign language curriculum almost useless. This unfortunately common mentality has created a curriculum of traditionality that seeks neither innovation nor adaptation. The foreign language curriculum in American high schools is fundamentally flawed because it overlooks the complexity of language, the power of choice, and the inherent difference between learning and acquisition. Stephen Krashen, a highly celebrated language learner and theorist within the language learning community, created a book called Principles and Practice in Second Language Acquisition, in which he describes his 5-step model of language. The most important method within Krashen's book is his theory of learning versus acquisition. Krashen states that language learning, the approach used in American high schools, is conscious knowledge of a second language. It is knowing the rules, being aware of them, and being able to talk about them. Contrastingly, according to Krashen, language acquisition, the manner in which infants acquire language, is a subconscious process. Language acquirers are not usually aware of the fact that they are acquiring language, but are only aware of the fact that they are using the language for communication. Unfortunately, the American foreign language curriculum provides the students with language learning rather than language acquisition. By engaging in language learning, America's youth is taught the structures of a language. They are taught things like grammar, syntax, and conjugations. They are taught about a language and its structures, and not the language itself. According to the article, America's Lacking Language Skills, written by Amelia Friedman and published in May of 2015 via news site The Atlantic, less than 1% of American adults today are proficient in a foreign language that they studied in a U.S. classroom. Although this incredibly shocking statistic can be partially attributed to some Americans' misunderstandings of the values of language learning, the larger issue is that foreign language curriculum has led Americans to believe that they are inadequate in learning a second language. They don't believe it is truly possible to acquire a new language. Now, Krashen's theory of language acquisition rejects this misconception and reassures that regardless of age, it is absolutely possible to acquire a foreign language. Although it may not be nearly as simple as the way an American-born child would learn English, there are ways to replicate the language acquisition process that children undergo, which can revolutionize the language learning curriculum within the United States. My goal for this paper is to provide a solution to the way America's youth is taught foreign languages in hopes of generating a newfound American culture that values the importance of foreign languages and understands what it takes to acquire one. If this problem is solved, and the percentage of Americans that become proficient in a language they learned in a U.S. classroom increases, then Americans will gain improved brain functions such as memory and focus, improved health in the form of delayed onset of diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia, and, most importantly, an improved understanding of the diverse cultures and people that populate our world. I plan to utilize Krashen's language acquisition theory to prove the point that second language acquisition is possible for all people regardless of age. I will then use reputable research done by universities around the world as well as insight from successful language learners to showcase the complexity of languages and the importance of using efficient language learning methods.
大きな夢は君の大丈夫になりたい